Blue Wire Hustle proudly presents All Eyes on Cleveland Live Insta React edition of the show. Tonight with the Browns Wire gang, the managing editor of the Browns Wire, Jeff Risdon, waving at you furiously right now. And below us, Josh Keatley, also from the Browns Wire, where I also write as well. Thanks for tuning in as we have, the Browns have picked at pick 26. They got there with pretty much a lot of the guys that we wanted them to see them on the board. They had a number of options. I'm happy to see them go cornerback. I thought cornerback was by far their biggest need. I liked Newsome a lot. Didn't think he would be there at 26. So I was happy to see them come away with Newsome. Jeff, your thoughts immediately on the pick of Greg Newsome.
You know, I really liked it. He was my number 3 corner. I liked him a lot. He was after, J.C. Horn and Patrick Surtain. And remember, there was a lot of talk this week about possibly trading up for Horn. They clearly didn't. I mean, they went, I believe, 8 and 9 back to back. So that would have been a major jump. So being able to get him where they got him is just great. All of us heard early on in the process that Newsome was the guy that they were looking at. And yes. They stayed patient. They stayed true to their board, and they got a guy who can start at outside corner right away if Greedy Williams isn't ready to go. And in my opinion, he's better than Greedy, even if they're both there together. It's a very smart pick. I love it. He's a great player, very, very savvy in coverage. He's one of those guys. He looks like he's like thinking ahead. He can anticipate what the receiver is going to do really, really well. I love that. Didn't make a lot of plays at Northwestern, but it's one of those deals where he doesn't give them up either. And I think when you're going to be in the situation that the Browns are, where the other team's going to be throwing at you 40 times a game because they're going to be coming from behind because the Browns' offense is a juggernaut, he's a great fit for that.
Yeah. Now, Josh, you don't mind the positional pick as well, but you would have liked to see them take Samuel over Newsome, correct? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm more of an Asante Samuel guy. I mean, I know that he has his limitations are with his size. Newsome has no physical limitations. He fits the CB1, what you want with that. I agree with everything Jeff is saying about his talent. The problem I have with him is he's been hurt. He only has 18 starts to his name, and those starts aren't against great talent. Like I talked about before the show, he didn't face off against Rondell Moore. He didn't face off against Chris Olave. The Big Ten's been down recently, so that's really it. And he didn't show me anything. Asante Samuel, again, I know he's got size limitations, but he's very athletic. He's got some more starts under his belt. The ACC is just as good as the Big Ten as far as wide receiver talent goes. I mean, that's where I would have gone. There's some other guys on the board that I like. Gregory Rousseau was still there, although most people hate him. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was still there. Rashad Bateman was still there. I thought maybe you could have sat and waited for Newsome, but
yeah. I mean, I'm happy with the cornerback pick because I see it as by far their biggest need, right? And I was a little concerned when Barry spoke the other day and he was talking about years down the line that they were really just going to kind of not focus on that. But with Newsome there, it really allowed them to take someone appropriate at 26 he's probably really high on their board and address that need at corner, because after Greedy and Denzel, who are both, let's be real, are both question marks about games played, right? And Troy Hill, who adds to the depth a little bit because he can go in and out, you don't really have anything on the team. You're going back to MJ Stewart and those guys, right? And you needed to add to depth on this team. And really, I don't trust the fact Greedy's situation really either. To me, he's just kind of penciled in over there. This gives you a guy that can go compete with him, maybe even win the job over him as the outside corner, and really add some good depth. He's what I like about him the most, guys, is that he can play man. He's shown the ability at Northwestern to play a ton of zone. They played a ton of cover 3, a ton of cover 4. He fits right into what the Browns want to do scheme-wise. He can flat-foot everything. He's got greasy hips. He can put his foot in the ground. He's physical. He can go tackle. I like all of that stuff off of him. as far as the film aspect of it goes. I think that he is right up there with the top tier guys in this draft as far as the cornerback goes. The only thing out there, let's talk about this. JOK was on the board. Was there anybody you would rather have seen them to take? Do you question the not taking Owusu-Koramoah?
I mean, that guy's he would have been really nice in the middle of that defense because he can play the hybrid linebacker safety role where they can play he could be the heavy nickel if they're doing the 4-1-6 defense. That's right. Yeah, that is up to 11 where they have 3 safeties and 3 cornerbacks on the field, and he could double like if they flex a second tight end in. He's okay. Then you just kick him up to linebacker a little bit. The worry that I have with guys like that is they have to find one position first. You saw what happened with Arizona and Isaiah Simmons last year. They're like, dude can play 8 positions. Well, he can't actually play one. You ask him to play one first and then build off that. They didn't do that. And that's a danger when you have a guy that's versatile like that. And not that I don't trust that Joe Woods and Kevin Stefanski would figure that out, but there's some risk there. I do think that their prioritization on the outside and sort of building on the outside in, it kind of makes sense because you're going to give those bigger plays up on the outside, and that's where it's where they had trouble last year. We all loved Money Mitchell, but he had limitations, and certainly the not having the safeties to be able to get over the top, and that they fixed that. So I think they addressed their biggest primary weakness on defense, which was being able to defend the deep outside third of the field. They've done a very good job of doing that, and Newsome's a part of that. So would JOK have done that? He certainly would have helped picking off crossers to tight ends and running backs out of the backfield, and that's still a need. Hopefully you can get a guy like that tomorrow. That has to be the hope.
Yeah, you wonder, before I go to you on this, Josh, I wonder with him, and we've seen it hurt people in the past. I mean, he's a really great player and everything, but his lack of positional, play hurts him a little bit because you really have to plan out how you're going to use him and have a plan for him. Is he going to gain weight, lose weight? Do you want to play him here, there, the other place? So his lack of having actual one position that you can throw him to may have hurt his draft stock a little bit. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah,
thoughts on JOK?
I would agree with that. That's obviously what's happened while we're seeing him fall. I do think he's a playmaker. I really, really, really like Joe Woods. I think he is probably one of the. I think he's one of the better defensive coordinators in the NFL. He just needs talent there, and I think he would be able to utilize a playmaker like that really effectively, kind of like you see with Tyrann Mathieu, Buchanan. There's guys out there that have been successful playing that role. I know the Cardinals aren't the best example, right? Even with Hassan Reddick, that took him forever to figure out how to use him.
Yeah, that's true.
But I feel like if anybody's going to do it, Joe Woods would be able to do it. And if he can't figure it out with them, maybe that's a sign that Joe Woods isn't the guy. So, like I said, I really like Owusu. I think he does a lot of things, and he fills a couple of different needs rather than just one. That's probably where I would have gone.
Okay.
He's still out there, too, after a couple of more picks have gone off the board. He's still sitting there.
Yep.
Yeah. So where are we at on that? Do you have an update, Jeff, on that?
I just saw that the Packers took Eric Stokes, the cornerback out of Georgia.
Oh, my gosh.
Who was the guy that I thought that the Browns would fall back to if Newsome wasn't there and if a guy like Rashad Bateman wasn't there. Because I know they did like Rashad Bateman at wide receiver, and he was still on the board, but they clearly prioritized defense over offense, and probably rightly so. Brad, you've railed recently about how understated the need at cornerback is, and I agree with you that it's something that they had to get better at, and they did that. But yeah, so Stokes made a lot of sense. He's a good player. He's going to do well in Green Bay too, and he would have been fine in Cleveland. I would have been happy with that. But Newsome's a little bit better, and I'm really excited. I'm wearing a purple sweatshirt just out of complete coincidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's,
I have to.
He's a home run pick for me, man. I really like it.
I agree. I'm thrilled with it. I was thrilled that he was on the board, and I kind of said as soon as he was there at 26, I was like, just take Newsome, just take him. And that's kind of how I felt about it. It's interesting you mentioned Stokes because I'm like my draft crush this year is Tyson Campbell. I've mentioned this a number of times. So I really like the other Georgia corner better. I think he's 6'2", bigger. I think he's a freak athlete. Comes up in tackles, and they would put him on the likes of Chase and Smith, and he was the one that guarded all the elite guys. So it's interesting they took Stokes. I think Campbell's the better guy out there. But let's go AFC North overall real quick. Let's go back to the Bengals pick early on. They have the chance to probably do what I think was the right thing and take the guy to protect Joe Burrow, but they go get Jamar Chase. Thoughts on that, Josh?
I would have definitely taken Sewell. I've had conversations. I've been getting beat up on Twitter due to all the analytics people saying to take Chase and the new offensive line coach, yada, yada, yada. I don't care. I would have taken Sewell 100 times out of 100 times.
I agree.
With that said, Jamar Chase is a problem. It's not like they reached down for one of the 150-pound receivers. I think that there is a drop down from Chase, so I'm fine with it, but you have to have a plan. Sewell didn't take a plan. He's plug and play. He's the dude. He's a god. There you go. But again, I don't think Chase is a bad pick, and I think he's going to be a problem for Cleveland. I just would have taken Sewell.
Yeah, and it's not like I guess my question is, I mean, they have some good receivers already. It's not like they really are lacking for weapons on the outside, I guess would be my main point. Jeff, where do you come out on this?
Yeah, so I'm happy. Well, so as you guys know, I cover the Lions. I am a Lions fan.
Yes.
And the Lions were taking the player that the Bengals didn't take there out of the two that Josh mentioned. And the Lions wound up with Penei Sewell. And while I'm not thrilled that they went there, he's a very good pick and a very good player. And he would have been a better pick for – see, there's a whole conundrum of if you have all this time but nobody to throw to versus if you have all these guys to throw to but no time.
Yeah.
And the Bengals have gone much, much more towards the latter. I mean, God help them if they think Riley Reif is going to. I mean, he's better than Bobby Hart, but Josh is better than Bobby Hart. So I'm not. You know, I want to see what they follow it up with tomorrow night. They've got to get at least one more offensive lineman. Based on the way that the board's fallen, though, I mean, Tevin Jenkins could still be there for him. You know that he's still out there.
It may work out.
There's talent. I mean, the Raiders did what they always do. They reached for a guy like Alex Leatherwood, who I had the Bengals taking in the second round of my mock draft. It didn't happen. So I'm from a Browns perspective, it sort of makes sense even more. It sort of reemphasizes why you take a guy like Greg Newsome, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. Those guys can play. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not bereft of receiving talent. They're gonna spread you out and attack you, and hope that their line holds up. And if you can cover. That just gives Myles Garrett that much more time to get there. It gives, whoever they take tomorrow to rush the passer. It could even get Jadeveon Clowney to have enough time to actually finish a sack, which would be wonderful.
So, absolutely. A little snarky. That's okay. Valid point. Though, and if you attach that as well, so let's say the Bengals take Jamar Chase, and then we find out that Baltimore just took Rashad Bateman, and the Browns don't take a corner at 26, right? What are we saying now? Like, holy crap, right? We have to answer it at some point. Now, you can turn around and take one at 59, and there's probably the corner class is deep, but I would like to see them take two corners in this draft. I think you have to find your nickel backup somewhere. A backup for Troy Hill as well. I think there's guys like Ambry Thomas, and Thomas, the kid from Oregon. There's a number of nickel corners that you can get in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round that I think you can bring in that are better than what they have on the roster right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go corner again in this draft. Thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Josh.
I wouldn't be surprised either, especially when we talk about how deep this class is. A lot of these guys, I think somebody's got to fall. Samuel's still there. Elijah Molden's still there. That's a guy who I think has a lot of talent.
He can play.
Yeah,
he'd be great in the slot too.
Yeah. I gave him a 2nd-round grade. I gave Melifonwu out of Syracuse a 2nd-round grade. That's another big cornerback, big physical cornerback that can fit opposite of Greg Ward. Maybe then you move Newsome to the slot. Shaun Wade's a guy that's not great, but as a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick, I don't think he's terrible, and he does play slot effectively. People forget how effective he was at the slot corner.
He just can't play outside.
Yeah, but the Browns don't need it. The Browns don't need that at this point. So I have no problem with them taking another cornerback. I think there's a ton of guys there. Paulson Adebo's another physical guy that's probably going to be there a little later. Kerry Vincent's another super athletic guy that maybe didn't put it all together. That's going to be even later.
Yeah.
The list goes
Riverboat
on and on.
Gambler. Yeah. If you're looking for a playmaker, that's Vincent. He's gonna pick off 6, but he's also gonna give up 6 touchdowns. So just as we're talking here, the Bills just took Greg Rousseau. So
did they really?
Okay,
they did.
Okay, yeah.
And also in between there. So we'll recap real quick here. After the Browns picked 27, the Ravens took Rashad Bateman. 28, the Saints took Peyton Turner, a guy that a lot of us had our eyes on tomorrow night for Cleveland. They took him tonight. Eric Stokes at 29 to Green Bay, and Greg Rousseau, number 30 to Buffalo, and Baltimore is currently on the clock.
Baltimore and Tampa Bay left here tonight. So the other team in the AFC North, as we talked about what the Ravens and the Bengals did, is the Steelers. And the Steelers were sitting there with the same kind of predicament, chicken or egg type scenario. Yep. Should they go offensive line or should they go running back? I cheered almost out loud when they went running back. Please, Pittsburgh, take running back in the first round of the draft. We know how well that works out so often. They go Najee Harris, who is a great athlete, but I think is the wrong pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my personal opinion. Happy to see that. Loved the scene in Cleveland, by the way. The booing of the Pittsburgh pick was fantastic. It was loud. It was glorious. It was awesome, and by the way, Cleveland has done a great job tonight. The stage has looked great. The music has been great. It's been a laid back atmosphere. At least NFL Network's coverage was halfway decent. I don't watch ESPN anymore, but go ahead, Jeff. What thoughts on Pittsburgh and basically what you saw from Cleveland tonight?
Yeah. So. I knew that they were taking Najee Harris. That was one of those that I wrote down in pen in the mock draft a long time ago. I nailed it tonight on the final mock. So boom, I'm happy about that. It was very predictable. It was something that so my boss at Browns Wire is a Steelers guy, and he tweeted it out. He said, "Welcome to Pittsburgh, Najee Harris. It's not you." Yeah. And he's right on. Najee Harris, he's a talented player, but they're just not going to get the return bang for their buck on that until they upgrade their offensive line. Look how much better Nick Chubb was even after just adding Jack Conklin. I mean, he was already great, but that really took it to another level, and how Wyatt Teller really took off. You know, that the running game is so dependent on having good offensive line that fits together and works well with your running back. I mean, they got the cart before the horse. You know, now they got to go find some horses to pull that. I mean, their offensive line it's rough, guys, and that's good news for Cleveland.
Yeah, that's very good news for Cleveland.
So let me talk about. I was down in Cleveland today. I went downtown. Did the draft experience. It was super cold. It was wet. It was miserable weather. But my socks still aren't dry. I stayed down there. I was down there I got there about 12:30. I stayed until about 5:30. I had to get back here. I'm at my parents' house outside of Cleveland, doing a ton of writing today, so I just can't do it out in the rain and the wind. And I've done the media center at the draft before, and it's a lot easier to work from home. So I packed up my bags and came home. But yeah, it was really cool. There were fans from all over the place. Everybody was really welcoming and accommodating. They did a really good job. There was a weird amount of Seahawks fans in town. Oddly, I did not see many Steelers fans, and I mean Pittsburgh's not that far away. No. They didn't represent today. There were more Chargers and Rams fans than there were Steelers fans milling around Cleveland today. They've done a really great job.
How are they going to come show up after the end of last season? I mean, I don't think they wanted to show their face in Cleveland after the end of the season. We beat them twice in a row.
Just how I don't know. It's almost the way that Michigan used to be with Ohio State back in the 90s, back when they were beating John Cooper's good teams every year, and they just got bored with slapping you around. That the Steelers got that way with Cleveland, and now the table has turned, and it's going to keep turning because I I don't think any of us think that the Steelers are winning second place next year in this division. Or they're certainly not winning first. I think it's Cleveland and Baltimore. And they're a lot closer to Cincinnati than they are to us. It's time for their comeuppance, and I'm glad to see it. Yeah, but the downtown looked great. It was clean. There were volunteers everywhere. They're very helpful. They were a little zealous on the mask thing, but you got to do what you got to do, man. To pull off an event like this, I get it. So I wore my mask even though I'm vaccinated. It was fine. They did a great job. Getting everybody where they needed to go and making it as comfortable as possible on a truly miserable weather day. It was rough. It wasn't as bad. So I was at Chicago in 2016. The Saturday there, it was 33 degrees and sleeting sideways into the Selection Square area. That was that's the coldest I've ever been. And we sat there for 5 hours and they didn't have food. That was awful. They've learned from that mistake. It's much better in Cleveland.
Yeah. So as far as the Cleveland the whole experience goes, the weather was rough and everything, but tonight it seemed to clear up. I mean, everybody was happy. It's the house band was loud. I mean, they had the guys laughing on the stage. They were. Goodell was up there singing "Sweet Caroline" and stuff, so it was kind of a light mood, and I thought it was well represented. Pretty cool how they put the each team on the building there and lit it up for each pick. That was pretty sweet. So, Josh, thoughts on the Steelers pick and on what you saw from the stage and everything tonight?
I'm shocked if that was like an automatic write-in because I put an offensive tackle in my mock draft. I thought that would be the definite way to go. I mean, the running backs aren't great, but that's not the issue with their offense. So it's not going to help. And Najee Harris, he's great. I gave him a first-round grade. I think he's good, but that's also the running back between the two top dogs, between him and Etienne. That's also the running back that most fits what they already had. So it's like you just got an upgraded version of what you didn't add in a dimension. Like I may have been able to justify Etienne in my mind because he does add a little bit of extra oomph to maybe your stagnant offense.
Yeah, he gives you more in the receiving game.
Yeah. But how you pass up on, Eichenberg was still there. Jalen Mayfield was still there. Taven Jenkins was still there. And none of those guys were reaches at this point. I was shocked by it.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. The Ravens pick is in, so I'm looking over here to see what they do.
I didn't get a chance to go to the draft. I didn't get a chance to go to the draft this year. I was at that Chicago draft the year Jeff is talking about, and it was so bad that they did like a meet and greet, and they shut it was like Brian Urlacher and like Lance Briggs were doing like a meet and greet. Yeah. It was so bad that they closed up shop after like 20 minutes. They were like, "No, we're going home."
So that was one of the first years where they did Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And Thursday it was perfect. It was like 85 degrees, and then it all went to hell. Sort of like this week. I mean, Tuesday up here in Cleveland was great.
Yep.
So we're waiting on the Baltimore's second pick here. They're on the clock. And then we're going to real quick just take a look at best available as we go into tomorrow. Day 2, Browns with 3 picks. They'll be picking at 59, 89, and 91 unless they move around. Potential here to move back up and get somebody they like, you guys think, in the second round? This seems like the sweet spot. If we know anything from Barry, he did this last year, right? Didn't he move up in the second round to get Delpit?
I think so. Borders.
I can't remember. That sounds right.
So it wouldn't surprise me. They have those 2 third-round picks. I don't think they're making both of those. I think they're packaging either those 2 together and moving up, or packaging one with 59, right? It's more, and moving up from that, and to target a player in the 40s. Somebody in the 10 to 15 spots higher. That'll move you up there. That'll get it done. And I like that idea. Just spitballing who might be there. A guy like Elijah Moore makes a lot of sense. The wide receiver out of Ole Miss. There's some of the bigger receivers haven't necessarily come off yet, and I think Bateman's still out there. Who did Baltimore take?
So they took Jason Owa.
Oh, okay.
They took Rashad. They finished up the first round with for the defensive from Penn State, and then they took Rashad. We talked about them taking Rashad Bateman earlier, and then you said, the Bills took Rousseau, and then it looks like
Tampa. It says the pick is in, so God bless them because it's after midnight.
And the Bills took.
Yep, there it is.
Yeah.
So as we look at for tomorrow, and we know Browns got their outside corner right. If you had in a perfect world, Jeff, what would be your target here in the second round? Knowing that the sweet spot for this draft is kind of early second round. So say they were to go up and get somebody, and you can kind of look right now at best available. If you guys look,
I mean,
there's a lot of players left.
is still out there. You can still get him, and you can make the trade that I was just talking about to go up and get him. I don't think he's going to last long. No. He's there. Who else is there? Let me take a peek.
Ojulari's still there.
Ooh,
Ojulari's still there.
He's got that knee. I have gone back and forth on this. Ojulari is the more talented player, but he also has the knee injury. And at 240 pounds, I worry that he's the guy that's so reliant on being fast that if he gets like another knee issue, then that's a problem. And Osai's pretty good. Yeah, the pass rush there makes a lot of sense. Wide receiver, I think you can get better wide receivers later than you can get better edges, better things like that. And everything I heard, in the last couple of days from talking to Browns people, they're going to take an offensive lineman. It might not be tomorrow, but it would be early on Saturday. Then they're taking somebody that can possibly play inside, but also possibly be their swing tackle. Remember, Kendall Lamb's gone. Chris Hubbard's coming back off injury. They don't know what they have in Drew Forbes yet, if he's going to play tackle or guard. I think they're probably penciling him at guard. So they need a young developmental tackle to at least compete with Alex Taylor. He's still got to gain some weight. Otherwise, he's just not going to cut it. So I look for that at some point in the next couple of days.
Just a real quick point, and then I'll let you talk on this for a minute here, Josh. But Barmore still on the board at defensive tackle, as well as I'll try to say his name properly, Levi Onwuzurike from Washington.
That's pretty good.
He's off the board. He got taken by Buffalo.
Did he really?
That's what
you told me.
No,
I thought Buffalo took Rousseau.
They took
Buffalo took Rousseau.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I read the wrong thing.
Yeah.
You're right. I apologize. Yeah, so he's on the board.
That's right. Yeah.
No need to apologize.
He's a guy like Milton Williams from Louisiana Tech is up in there too. He belongs in that conversation as a defensive tackle.
Yeah, so those defensive tackles, right now, I mean, the Browns kind of need a guy there potentially with, depending on what happens at that position. I mean, there's really nothing out on free agency unless it's Richardson coming back on a cheaper deal or like I guess Hurst would be a guy that maybe, but everybody else is over 30 and only played 20 to 50 snaps in the last couple of years. They're not very good players on the market to go get to fill that room. Do you look at that as a need at this point, Jeff?
Yeah, just absolutely. And I'm just looking at some of the other players that are still out there. Joe Tryon went 32nd to Tampa Bay, by the way, to wrap up the first round. That was a guy that I know the Browns had some interest in as well, and was a guy who could have possibly fallen to tomorrow. So he's off the board. But just look at they can certainly use a defensive tackle. I don't think it's a priority for them. I think they're pretty happy with having Malik Jackson and easy for me to say, Andrew Billings coming back. And I'm a big Billings fan. I've always liked his game. I think he can do it. And that's the kind of position where you can rotate a guy in every year. It's not overly scheme complex. You can find a free agent that you keep building them on 1-year deals and not commit a lot of money to it. That kind of seems to be the way that they're leaning on that. So if you draft a guy in like the 4th or 5th round, and there's dudes out there that can do that, I think that fits right in with it. Plus, you got Elliott from last year. He's got some things to prove, but he's at least there. Yeah,
he's definitely a rotational piece. What are you looking for tomorrow, Josh? As you kind of look at best available here, I mean, there's a bunch of good safeties still out there. There's a bunch of good There's some decent linebackers
Oh,
that you may want to take. Like, I'm interested in the Chaz Surratt kid from North Carolina. He seems like he would be a fit. Maybe even the kid from LSU again, Jabril Cox. Thoughts on what you're looking for tomorrow?
He's still there too.
I think we're all in agreement that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is the dude. I mean, obviously, if by some miracle, if he falls to Cleveland, I think that's the move. I like Azeez Ojulari, but despite the medical concerns, I think if you look at him, he's probably a top 10 talent. And I mean, at some point, you have to take the risk. So I feel like in the second round, it'd be worth it to me. We talked about the interior defensive line. I'm a lot higher on Davian Nixon than Jeff is. That's another guy we've talked about previously. I think he's got an insanely high ceiling. So I that's somebody I would roll the dice on. We talked about Christian Barrymore, a guy that was mocked consistently to Cleveland at 26. If you can get him in the second round, I think he's a guy that can play immediately. And a wide receiver I would pretty much sell the farm for is Rondell Moore. I've liked him ever since he was a freshman at Purdue.
Yeah.
I think he's entirely underrated because people look at his size, but he's not built like those other small receivers. I mean, he is a man. I mean, he is the strongest person in that Purdue weight room, and that's including linebackers like Derek Barnes, who had an amazing pro day. I mean, he's benching and squatting 400, 500 pounds. The dude's a man. So the size isn't a concern for me. I know he's got some injury history, but again, that's why he's fallen to the second round. So that's probably where I'd be looking. I like Surratt too. I think there's a lot of potential there. I know he's overaged, or he doesn't really fit the guardrails that everybody talks about, but I think he's got potential because he played quarterback for so long. He's only played linebacker for 3 years, so I feel like there's some depth there. There's something extra there. Jabril Cox, the same kind of with him too. You're talking about a guy that played the FCS level for the first 3 years of his career. Where he relied purely on his athleticism. I think that's a guy that's still kind of growing into who he is. So that's probably where I'd take a peek at.
Yeah, Jabril Cox played a guy like Owusu-Koramoah played over 100 snaps in the slot from the linebacker position. That's kind of probably what the Browns are looking for. A guy that can cover more than anything, that can play linebacker.
Absolutely.
Right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wide receivers, obviously Moore is probably the best guy on the board. You mentioned Rondell Moore. Mm-hmm. That's a guy that they had a visit with, we know for sure. And they like, obviously, speed-wise. There's a ton of wide receivers I like in this draft as you go further in. And there's actually a lot of speed guys in this draft. The ideal thing for me would be to get a guy that can maybe help now by adding speed to the room in the immediate, but maybe turn out to be maybe like a wide receiver 2 in a couple years. So, like, does that make sense? Like, somebody with the potential to be a really good wide receiver, but somebody that you can use kind of some gadget plays on with elite speed right now, because the Browns that speed is an element they don't have in that room, really.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of have it with DPJ, but he's got to be more consistent with his play. I wonder how much they're trusting him to make a jump in the second year. We'll see on that. I know that I did see one receiver that I know that they have had at least some interest in, and it might just be because he's from LSU and they like all LSU players apparently. Is Terrace Marshall is still out there?
Oh, I love him. He's a tremendous player. He can do it all. He's a big time player, and I thought. I had read multiple places that Baltimore was really high on them. I think if Bateman was gone, I think they were going to go there with 27 potentially to get him as maybe their next wide receiver on the board. So he's up there at the top of depending on what you're looking for in your receiver. Final thoughts here from the first round Cleveland draft 2021 instant react show here. With all eyes on Cleveland, we got the Browns Wire gang all together here with our fearless leader, Jeff Risdon. Any final thoughts here before we get out of here? As it's past midnight now, and we'll get this up on the page tomorrow, right, Jeff? And,
absolutely.
Everybody can do that.
Yeah, you hit it for me. We'll roll it in the morning. I will go to bed at some point. I actually just got a notification on my phone that the Lions GM is doing a Zoom in 10 minutes. Good. My day never ends. Literally.
Yes.
I'm thrilled with Greg Newsome. It's a really good pick. I didn't think he was going to be there. I mocked him to the Cardinals at 16. They wound up going a different direction, and that's Cleveland's benefit. I know a player that they really liked throughout the scouting process. For them to sit pat, stay patient, and get a player that they really liked and that seems like a great fit. It's a big win for Andrew Berry on a day where he had his first daughter come into the world too. Think about the day that Andrew Berry has had. My goodness.
Yeah. Did you see him? They showed him after he made the pick, and he just had a huge shit-eating grin on his face and a big thumbs up, like winner today,
that's
buddy.
Awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm happy for it, and I'm looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be a fun. As Josh knows, Josh and I have worked together forever. He knows that I love Saturday more than any other day of the year. I can't wait for that day, even though the Browns are. I guess they have picks in every round. Yeah, it'll be fun. I just hope that they don't make that. I think they have the third to last pick. I don't want that. I don't want to wait that long. Get it over. Trade on.
Yep.
Matter of fact, there was one year we were covering them. Was it? This might have been back when we were writing about the Lions, but we thought we were done, and then someone traded back in. It was like 5 picks up in the 7th round.
Yeah.
I remember like, come on, man. Yeah.
That's brutal. That's brutal. Final thoughts from you, Josh, before we get out of here?
Yeah, I think Newsome's a good player. I think it's not the pick I would have made, but the draft is all about everybody gets so locked into definites, this guy or this guy. It's best to just try to keep an open mind and understand what they're trying to do, right? I may have liked Samuel better, but I understand his limitations. I understand why Newsome may have been a better fit, right? So I'm not, and as a Browns fan, you definitely got to get used to understanding why they're making decisions, right? Because I've been following them since the Brandon Whedon days, right? So I mean, you gotta understand it, understand where they're coming from. I don't think it's a bad pick. I don't think it's a reach by any means. It's just something that I question. I think he's gonna be a very good player. I'm very happy. I think there's a lot of talent left on the board. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of days. That's where the draft is made, is the middle rounds. So if you can keep these guys on the roster, because even if the first rounder sucks, they're going to keep them for 5 years. But are these guys going to stick, or are they going to be like Spurgeon Wynn and Travis Prentice and out of the league in 2 years?
Nightmares.
Bad words. We'll have to bleep those names out in editing. We're going to scare all the fans away. All right. No. Awesome job, guys. You guys kill the coverage on everything. Tonight was a fun night, but we know the meat and potatoes comes tomorrow. Now, the last point that I'll make is one thing that we've heard consistently here, and we may see Barry try to do because we know he's ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff. At least it feels that way to me, is that this class is thin on talent, thin on high-end talent, and next year they're looking at like 300 to 350 draftable guys because of all the opt-outs, the extra year of eligibility. Next year's going to be loaded with talent. A lot of GMs are going to look to take extra picks and turn them into picks in 22. So don't be surprised if you see the Browns maybe take a third or a fourth, their extra fourth, and maybe turn it into a third or a fourth next year. I think that's something to keep an eye on because I think a lot of GMs will be doing that. So we're going to get up and out of here. Maybe we'll do this again one more time this weekend at some point. I'll reach out to you guys, but we'll get this up tomorrow morning for everybody. This has been All Eyes on Cleveland Instant React First Round NFL Draft 2021 in Cleveland, Ohio, with Josh Keatley and Jeff Risdon of the Browns Wire. Thank you guys so much. For Mikey on the ones and twos, that's it. We're out.